Okay, so in this video we're going to look at a bit of automation and a bit of sort of delay designing, I suppose. Let's look at the next section. So there's actually another dropout, again creating more contrast, and they introduce a new idea. So that section there, you'll still hear the sound, but instead of it being really clear and bright, it's more muffled. So it's got fewer high frequencies. So what we're going to do now is, I'm going to move that out of the way, see you later. What we're going to do is we're going to filter that snare drum. But we actually use that, sorry, not the snare drum, that rim click. We actually use that rim click quite a lot, this sound here. And we don't want it filtered for the whole song. So when we put the filter on the hi-hats here, we only use the hi-hats for the verses. We didn't want them for the chorus. So what we can do is basically say, okay, cool. For this section here, I want the little rim click sound to be filtered, so duller, or more muffled. And then after then, we want to turn that filter off. And we do that by using automation. So I'm just going to copy or paste that rim click again, just from that section. Okay, and I'm also going to cut it so it's half the length and delete that off. So the shortcut for Toolbox is T, and then you can just click on the symbol, and if you press T twice, it goes back to your pointer. Okay, that's how I work quickly. So we're now going to filter that. So go to the snare, double click on EQ, bring in a filter. I'm just going to drop it down to probably about there, so let's listen to that. No more late night Ubers, baby. No more late night Ubers, baby. No more late night Ubers, baby. No more late night. Okay, I'm going to drop it to about 1780 there. Okay, so 1780 hertz, that's where the cutoff is. And we're going to automate this. So there are a couple of ways of automating it. Let's show you. So if you press A, this is your automation view. You can also do that by clicking the automation button up here. Every track has now got some new options, which means essentially for each track we can automate it. And automate means doing something automatically. So we could change the volume over time automatically. That's quite simply done. So if we wanted volume, which is already selected, click in a point, click in another point, and then if you just drag that down, you can now see it starts off and then gradually gets louder. No more late night Ubers, baby. So you can hear how that gradually gets louder. And in fact, if you watch the volume control here, no more late night Ubers, baby. So you can see how it's gradually fading it in. I'm just going to get rid of that because we didn't want that. Just Command Z, go back a couple of steps, okay? We're going to actually automate our filter. So where it says volume, click on it, go to channel EQ, and then where it says high cut frequency, you'll see that it says 1780. That is the same value as what's inside of the EQ. And we're basically going to say at this point here, so I'm going to click 2 points in and 2 points here. So at this point here, we want it to be 1780, whereas the rest of the time we want it to not be affected. So we're going to turn it all the way back up again, which means the EQ is only cutting out 20,000 hertz and above. So if you watch, ready, if I bring that EQ up, no more late night Ubers, baby. So you can see how it moves by itself. That wasn't me moving it. No more late night Ubers, baby. Okay, so that's automation by using sort of like clicking in, and make sure it's on read. If it's not on read, for example, if it's off, then you won't be able to hear it, and therefore, so if you do that, you can see you can turn the automation off. And now if you press play, no more late night Ubers, baby. The automation isn't read, so make sure it is on read, and then it will read it, okay? The other way of doing it, I'm just going to undo all of that, is by using something called latch. So if you look here, where it says read, turn latch on, open up your EQ, and what we're going to do is we're going to start it here. But as soon as it gets to that section here, we're going to drag it all the way down, hopefully to 1780. Let's give that a go, shall we? Look what happens. No more late night Ubers, baby. So you can see that actually my movements have been recorded in. Now, doing that sort of automation move can be quite tricky. Subtle volume changes, so say for example if you were holding onto the volume knob, gradually bring it up and down again, that's fine. But radical changes like this can be quite tricky if you're using latch mode. The big thing about latch mode is, once you've finished recording in that specific piece of automation, go back to read. Never leave it on latch mode, and this is why. Say for example we're then doing a mix later. We're like, oh yeah, actually I think the snare drum for the whole thing needs to turn down. So let me turn the whole snare drum down. So check this out.
If you make it out alive.
Yeah, that's a better volume. Quite like that volume. You'll notice though, instead of just turning it down and leaving it there, you've actually written in the automation data, which basically says at this section here you want it to be here, and then at this section here you want it to be quieter. So don't forget to turn latch off when you've finished recording in the automation data, okay? Right, so the other thing about latches, if we just go back to where it says high cut frequency, if you've recorded something in like this and you're not happy with it, you can always edit it by simply just playing with the lines you've got. Like that. So I could always just redraw this in to where I'm happy, like that. And if it doesn't finish quick enough, I just drag it. So anything you record in via latch, you can then edit afterwards, just like that. So now we've got the same outcome. Oh, back to read, don't forget. Okay, so that's what we've got there. Okay, so that's our sort of muted or filtered snare drums or rim shots that they've got there, and we've used a bit of automation to automate the EQ. So that's the first thing, and then it brings, by the way, press A and you go back out of automation view quickly. I'm now going to copy all this across, but remember, this now starts the chord sequence halfway through. It's a 1 bar dropout. So if we just copy all of this across like this, as soon as you put automation data in, this window comes and it says, do you want to copy the automation data? So what you'll want, well, basically for this situation, hit no, don't copy. Otherwise, it's going to copy a filter sweep here like this, you know, like what we did earlier, that sort of cut-off filter. It's going to apply it over here as well, and you don't want that, you just want it for this section. I'm now also going to chop this in half for a second. I'm just going to take a copy of that section there. Oh, not that section there, idiot. That second half, just like that. Don't copy. Okay, so now it sounds like this. So the reason why is because this is a full sort of chord sequence, but we've got a 1 bar dropout. So what we're going to do is go that 1 bar, chop all those regions at that point, and we'd use the second half like that. I'm going to copy it across. I'm going to stick these back together again because I actually don't want them independent. So like that. Okay, and now we can loop it again like we did earlier. So here we go. Like that. No more late night Ubers, baby. I'm not coming to your house. Okay, right, the last thing I'm going to show you in this video, it is quite a long video, is there's like a counter, sort of like a, well, not a counter melody, like a new idea that's brought in which creates interest. I'm not coming to your house, are you crazy? You hear that? That sound. So I'm just going to bring in a new software instrument. I'm going to go to synthesizer, plucked. I'm going to use the 16 mil, whatever that is, dream sequence. Okay. You can play around with some of these plugins here. You can change the way things sound. I'm going to leave it the way it is. All I am going to do is just put another channel EQ on it, and I'm going to filter some of the high frequencies like that. I am going to turn, so if you double click on Silver Verb, I'm going to turn the output down to probably about 28 or 29, and that's the reverb. We'll play around with reverb another day because there's quite a lot. In fact, let's turn it down even more. It's taking ages to disappear. It's better. So now I'm going to put a stereo delay on it. Now there are loads of delay plugins, but we're just going to use stereo delay today. I'm going to turn them both to quarter. If we turn the output up, you should be able to hear some of those delays. Dum 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 dum. Hear how there's that sort of repeat going on there. So if we just do it again. Okay, if you want more repetitions, you'd need to turn the feedback up like this for both channels. So now we've got 3 repetitions there, that's quite cool. So we're now going to put that in.
No more late night Ubers, baby. I'm not coming to your house. Are you crazy?
Okay, we'll need to quantize that. 1, 2, 3, dun dun. So I think that needs to go there. Bit of quantize. Oh, that second one looks wrong. Bring that back over. Quantize. Good, good. So now we've got our little motif that comes in.
No more late night Ubers, baby. I'm not coming to your house. Are you crazy?
Okay, that sounds not perfect. You would probably need to go in and play around with some of the synth settings in here, so I'll probably bring the release down. I'll teach you that next week.
Baby, I'm not coming to your house.
And even turn off that silver verb because it's too much.
Baby.
Notice how when you turn it off, the sound completely changes, so I'm going to put it back on because I don't like that at all. So intensity, maybe turn the intensity down.
Ubers, baby.
It's better.
I'm not coming to your house.
Cool. So we've now got our little contrasting idea. Now the reason why this contrasting idea is so important is you should be introducing new ideas into the verse or into the chorus. You shouldn't just have the same, for example, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 bars. It shouldn't be the same. You should be bringing in ideas. So in fact, Jax Jones has brought in this one idea which creates contrast. Otherwise, what you're relying upon is your vocals to be doing all of the change. And that's not always the case. You'll want your instrumental to create change as well. So you could start playing around with other ideas as well. So if you wanted to go a little bit more crazy,
Are you crazy?
so you could bring in some sort of idea that's sort of like a descending arpeggiator. So
You said you were home, but I saw on your story you're out to the morning, not alone. So now you're gonna call, ring ring. Hello.
So again, just another idea which is different to the one before. It does need quantizing. So let's have a listen to that.
You said you were home, but I saw on your story you're out to the morning, not alone. So now you're gonna call, ring ring.
Okay. You may want to bring in another sound instead of just marimba. You could bring in another sound such as a piano. Again, these are all just things, your arrangement, your style. It's a piano sound. I may put lots of reverb on that just to make it sound a bit more distant and more, what's that word, atmospheric. So I'm going to go to the Dream Hall. That's definitely an atmospheric sound. Let's see what we can put in here. So I could just play a simple repeat of that, or I could try a different idea.
You make it out alive. Maybe you can make this right. Cause so many times I told you the next.
Right, any of those ideas, obviously all terrible. Now here is a very quick trick with Logic. If you're jamming along with the track and you come up with a really cool idea, but you've forgotten to press record, do not despair. Here is a quick trick. Go to Logic Preferences, and go to Key Commands and go to where it says Edit. Type in Capture. Capture as recording. My shortcut is Shift R for that. So check this out. Imagine I'm just jamming along.
You make it out alive. Maybe you can make this right.
Say for example I like those. Do not do anything, just do Shift R and you'll notice that it's brought in those ideas for you. It's not deleted them, it's actually kept them even though you weren't recording. So when you're jamming along to a click track and you're like, oh my god, that bit was so cool, why didn't I press record? Don't panic, it is capturing it in the background. Sorry, that was a bit of a sidetrack. So what you should have by the end of this video is your verse created from bar 41 through to bar 57. It should be interesting, contrasting. In fact, if you listen carefully as well, over on the original, there is also like an additional bit of percussion that's added.
Next time I'll be colder to you.
So listen to the end of this bar.
No more.
That sound again. So if you wanted to bring those ideas, adding extra percussion, not throughout, just popping in every now and then, do so. So you should now have a complete chorus, the breakdown, and the entire verse with that little drop out in between. That's it.